iDesign. I'm Whitney Kilgore, the co-founder and chief academic officer at iDesign. In this episode, I'll talk to Andreina Parisi-Amon Bloom, who has a name as long as her title. She's the vice president of learning and teaching at Engageli. Andreina, in a recent article that I read in the EDUCAUSE Review, you mentioned that forward-thinking campus leaders are enabling intentional digital transformation. They're doing that by decreasing the overhead on faculty. They're creating more equitable classrooms. What are some of the practical ways that leaders on campus can embrace these ideals and move forward in this digital transformation?
Thank you, Whitney. This is an exciting topic to talk to, and I'm really excited to be here today with you on it. I think what we're seeing and what really sparked that article is that and all that's happened, folks are really recognizing that this flexibility across how and when and where students learn and honestly educators where they have the opportunity to teach is so valuable. And this is not novel. I know you've been working on online settings for a long time, but it is new and becoming clearer to a lot more people. And so this idea of being able to make that possible, right? You asked for what is the tangible or tactical things that people can do, is how to make that possible for their faculty and their students. And so one, I would say, talk to your educators, understand what are their pain points, as right now they're trying to bring together these different pieces. Just yesterday, I was talking to a group of instructional designers across the SUNY system, and they were saying how they are building out and implementing these high flex courses. And so for them, high flex is a student at any given moment as they get ready to go to class can decide if they want to go and take that class face to face, if they want to do it live synchronously but in an online setting, or if they really just need a different schedule that day and so they're going to engage asynchronously on their own at another time. Instructors have to be ready to teach to all three of those situations at the same time without knowing how many students are going to be in each bucket, and often using completely different technologies to be able to do that and how they intersperse. And so as the faculty member thinks about how they're going to prepare their class, we're essentially saying, okay, first go build your classroom and then go into that classroom and teach it. And so we're hearing a lot that the technology is hindering their ability to focus on what they want to teach and how they want to guide the learning. And so then step two, I would say, is in terms of after talking to educators and understanding what their pain point is in setting up that structure, would be either highlighting the infrastructure at your institution or building that out to support them so that they can really focus on guiding the learning and not building the classroom in which they're going to be doing that.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's a lot of good advice for those leaders that are trying to figure out how they can go from the emergency remote teaching to really robust online or blended learning experiences. And I'm reminded of a comment made by Stephanie Moore, who we both co-presented with during the Empirical Educator Project, who said that oftentimes when you try to do high flex, what you end up doing is utilizing the limitations of both environments. It's very difficult to do well. And so I think talking to the faculty is a really, really good place to start. When we think about intentional design of digital learning, it really is about those affordances, right? And thinking through what that ed tech ecosystem can allow. And recently you shared with me a little bit about Engageli's asynchronous features. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how that could support student learning beyond anything that anybody has ever really thought about doing in the higher ed landscape.
So, as you were saying, we have this concept of an asynchronous study hall room. And the idea being that in both for the educator and for the learner, you would want your classroom to encompass the learning that can happen not just in that moment that you're in the class session, but kind of before, after, and all around that time period. And so the way our study hall rooms work is that in the classroom while a session is taking place, or an instructor can record kind of on their own. That session can be recorded. And it's not just the recording of the audio and the video as you often have in a video conferencing setting, but also of those engaging components. So if an instructor is having a poll question that then students are answering and either learning from or then having a discussion, that also shows up in the study hall space. And so a learner that is reviewing that afterwards can come in and also respond to the question, and that data is stored. They also see the responses of their fellow learners who may have been in a study hall room earlier or in the live class session, and they also don't have to do it alone. So asynchronous no longer means just you on your own, but in the same way that we have tables as the foundation of being in an Engageli classroom, we also have a table in your study hall room. And so when I go to jump in and say, okay, I'm going to review this lecture or do this, this project, I can also, message my uh, I can also message my group mates and say, hey, I'm going to do this right now. Do you have time? Let's jump in and do it together. And so then I send them a link, and the three of us or the four of us are in that same study hall room, reviewing the lecture together, answering the questions, and having that conversation or collaborative work at the same time. And so now we are kind of removing the aloneness from the asynchronous component. And we're also starting to remove the boundaries in that continuum of time between what is happening in the live class and what can happen before or after.
Okay, my mind is blown with the phrase, we're removing the aloneness from the asynchronous. It's really impressive and exciting when we start thinking about what those affordances can enable and empower from a learning perspective. It reminded me when I saw it of like a Netflix watch party, because during the pandemic, my kids were supposed to be attending class right on Zoom or WebEx or whatever the classroom of that particular faculty member was, or that teacher, because I had one in high school and one in college at the same time. And instead they were really getting into, because they were alone during the pandemic, this notion of watching movies with their friends. And so I love how you've been able to play off of that solution that came to being during the pandemic and turn that into a positive in a learning environment going forward. It's really exciting.
Yeah, I think it starts to put also some of that control in the learner's hands, and as all of us who are parents know, right? The more control you can give over those components, you pick the big thing. I have toddlers, right? So this is a slightly different mindset, but like you pick the big things, and they get to pick the little things, and then everybody is happy with kind of the teamwork that gets you out the door. And so similarly, I think in this case where that you're enabling the learner to say, okay, I'm ready to do this together, or I want to have a conversation with these folks as we tackle this challenging topic. It really allows that collaboration and community to build in an organic way. I think there's also, we're starting to see some really interesting ideas come out of that from the faculty side as well, in terms of how it can allow them to kind of stretch and be almost in more places at once. And so one of our faculty members at Coventry, their plan for office hours that they're working with is having a set of questions that they give to the learners in a study hall room. So they do the recording, have them work through questions that are in the interactive polls in that moment. And then if learners have questions, they can post them in the Q&A, or they can come to an open office hours time and have a TA or the instructor walk them through it and talk them through it. And so those two things actually can happen at the same time, in that a learner can be in their own study hall room or with a couple other people working on this, posting a question in the Q&A, which is retained across class sessions, and then the instructor can be hosting their office hours, talking to some other learners that have come in to talk through it, and see the Q&A come up. respond to that, which goes into the study hall that's happening concurrently. And those students can either, if that kind of completed it and answered the question for them, then good, they can continue on the way. Or they can say, okay, no, let me go into the live session that is happening right now and really talk this through to make sure I understood the concept.
Okay, mind blown. And this is one of those where seeing is believing because I'm able to follow everything that you're saying because I've seen it before. So the pictures are playing in my mind. If people are watching this and they want a chance to see it themselves, how do they find out more? How do they get in touch?
So on Engageli.com, they can see more about how it works. But really, I'd be happy to talk to anyone who's interested. And so just Andreina at Engageli.com, and we can set up a demo and I can walk them through it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me today, Andrina. It was always, as always, a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, Whitney. It was a great time.